Hey everyone, remember that first car cruising down the boulevard, freedom, the wind in your hair.
Yeah.
But picture this. Um, that car, it becomes a symbol of danger
Hmm.
and the butt of jokes and like a cautionary tale that parents whisper to their teens.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened with the Ford Pinto.
Oh, wow.
So today we're going deep, we're taking a deep dive into the Pinto's story,
Okay.
a story that goes way beyond just those infamous exploding gas tanks.
It's fascinating how one car, the Pinto, became like shorthand for corporate negligence in the 70s.
Oh,
But was it really as dangerous as everyone thought? And
yeah.
what can we even learn from this story decades later?
Yeah, that's what we're here to find out. So
Okay.
let's rewind to the 70s, a
Right.
time of big hair, disco music, and yeah, some pretty questionable car safety standards.
Yeah.
Gas prices were soaring. The environment was a growing concern.
Right.
Remember Silent Screen?
Oh, yeah.
And Ralph Nader was like shaking things up with his book Unsafe at Any Speed.
Right.
The big three automakers, they were used to dominating the market,
Mm-hmm.
but suddenly they were facing this fierce competition from smaller, fuel-efficient imports.
Exactly. The American car industry was in a real bind.
Yeah.
They enjoyed, decades of dominance.
Right.
But this wave of new imports, especially from Japan,
Uh-uh.
they were really turning heads.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It was the era of bell-bottoms,
Yeah.
platform shoes,
Oh, yeah.
and those bulky American cars.
Yeah.
They were starting to look, well, a bit outdated.
Yeah, like your dad's car.
Exactly.
So that's where the Ford Pinto comes in.
Okay.
Lee Iacocca, the head honcho at Ford, he wanted a piece of that small car pie,
Uh-huh.
and he wanted it fast.
Okay.
He envisioned the Pinto as this sporty, affordable car for young drivers,
Yeah.
like a stylish alternative to those foreign imports.
Right.
So to get it on the market quickly,
Yeah.
they slashed the usual development time almost in half.
Wow. So this rush to market,
Yeah.
coupled with the need to keep that price tag under $2,000,
Uh-huh.
it led to some, shall we say, interesting design choices.
Yeah, interesting.
Most notably, the gas tank placement.
Okay.
Instead of situating it over the rear axle like most cars,
Right.
they tucked it behind the axle, low to the ground, to
Ah.
maximize trunk space.
Hold on. Are you saying that they prioritize luggage space over the safety of the gas tank?
It certainly seems that way.
I mean, come on, for all those groovy platform shoes and bell-bottoms.
Right. Well, this design choice, it placed the gas tank mere inches from the rear bumper.
Oh, wow.
So it made it extremely vulnerable in a rear-end collision.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, that led to some serious problems.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Almost as soon as the Pinto hit the streets, there were reports of fiery crashes.
Oh, wow.
One heartbreaking case involved Lily Gray and 13-year-old Richard Grimshaw.
Okay.
Their Pinto stalled on the highway,
Oh, no.
got rear-ended, and burst into flames.
Oh, my gosh.
Lily was killed, and Richard suffered horrific burns and disfigurement.
Oh, that's awful.
And sadly, these weren't isolated incidents.
Right.
There was another case involving 3 teenage girls.
Okay.
They had stopped to retrieve a gas cap they'd left on the roof of their car.
Oh, wow.
A distracted driver slammed into them.
Jeez.
The Pinto ignited.
Oh, no.
And tragically, 3 out of the 4 people involved lost their lives.
Oh, my God.
It was terrible.
So these accidents, they revealed this terrifying pattern. The Pinto's design often trapped people inside the burning wreckage.
Yeah.
Like a nightmare scenario, every parent's worst fear.
Absolutely.
Then in 1977, Mother Jones magazine dropped a bombshell, an expose titled Pinto Madness.
Oh, yeah.
It blew the Pinto situation wide open,
Right.
claiming that Ford knew about the car's deadly flaw,
Uh-huh.
but they chose to ignore it.
Wow.
They cited leaked internal documents that revealed a cold, calculating cost-benefit analysis where Ford had actually assigned a dollar value to human life.
Oh, gosh.
A paltry $200,000.
Wow.
And the public outcry was intense.
Yeah.
Think of it like the social media firestorms of today,
Right.
only with postcards flooding the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Yeah.
The Mother Jones article won a Pulitzer Prize.
Wow.
And suddenly, the Pinto became the punchline of countless dark jokes.
It seemed like the whole nation turned on the Pinto.
Yeah.
And understandably so, if the allegations were true.
Yeah.
Under mounting pressure, Ford eventually issued a recall of millions of Pintos.
So it seemed like a clear-cut case of corporate greed and a victory for consumer safety. But is that the whole story?
That's the question, isn't it?
Was the Pinto truly a death trap? as so many believed?
Well, let's just say that in the early 1990s, researchers started digging deeper into the Pinto case.
Okay.
And what they uncovered challenged the prevailing narrative in some surprising ways.
Wait, are you saying the Pinto might not have been as bad as we all thought?
Wow.
That the Mother Jones story might have been exaggerated?
Well, that's just...
I'm all ears.
Okay, well, remember that damning cost-benefit document? The one everyone pointed to as proof of Ford's disregard for human life?
Yeah, the smoking gun.
Well, it turns out
Yeah.
it wasn't even about the Pinto.
Wait, what? You're telling me that the evidence of Ford's so-called evil scheme
Right.
wasn't even related to the Pinto?
Exactly. That document was actually part of this much broader analysis
Right.
that Ford, along with other automakers, was
Yeah.
required to conduct by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't specific to the Pinto.
Yeah.
It didn't focus on rear-end collisions. It was actually about the costs and benefits of implementing new rollover safety standards
Okay.
for all cars.
Hold on. So you're saying the government was asking car companies to, like, put a price tag on human life
Yeah,
as part of their regulations?
right.
That seems pretty messed up.
It does raise some ethical questions,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that was the reality at the time.
Right.
In the 70s, there was this growing push to make government regulations less burdensome for businesses. And this led to the widespread use of cost-benefit analysis, where even human life was assigned a dollar value.
So Ford wasn't being uniquely callous.
Right.
They were just following the government's lead.
It appears that way.
Okay.
Even the infamous $200,000 figure
Right. That was...
that everyone said was Ford's valuation of a human life.
Right.
It wasn't their number.
Oh, wow.
It was actually provided by the NHTSA themselves.
Really?
Based on factors like average lifetime earnings.
Huh. So that document wasn't what it seemed.
Right.
What about the crash tests?
Okay.
Mother Jones claimed that Ford knew the Pinto was dangerous because it exploded in almost every test.
That part is true.
Okay.
The Pinto did fail many of its early crash tests.
Okay.
But what's important to remember is that crash testing
Yeah.
was a relatively new field in the late 60s and early 70s.
Oh, okay.
The methods were still being developed, and even Ford engineers had doubts about the accuracy of the tests they were required to use.
So they were basically saying, we know this test isn't realistic, but we have to do it anyway.
Exactly.
Wow.
And there's evidence that some Ford engineers were actually concerned about the safety of placing the gas tank over the rear axle
Okay.
because of its proximity to passengers.
Right.
They saw potential risks in both designs,
Okay.
and the best solution
Yeah.
wasn't as clear-cut as it was made out to be.
So this picture of Ford deliberately sending out death traps starts to look a lot more complicated.
Right.
What about the number of deaths attributed to Pinto fires?
Yeah.
Mother Jones claimed it was hundreds, maybe even thousands.
When researchers re-examined the data, they
Yeah.
found a much lower number of deaths linked to Pinto fires, closer to 27.
27.
Yeah, over the car's entire production run.
Wow. Okay.
And here's the kicker.
What's that?
Statistically speaking,
Yeah.
the Pinto was no more dangerous than other subcompacts of the time.
Oh, wow.
In fact, in some ways, it was actually safer than some popular competitors like the VW Beetle.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So the Pinto wasn't some uniquely dangerous outlier.
Right,
It was just one of many cars on the road
right.
that were, by today's standards, shockingly unsafe.
Exactly. The focus on the Pinto's rear-end vulnerability kind of obscured a much bigger problem. Car safety in the 1970s was abysmal across the board.
Right.
We've come a long way since then.
Yeah.
But it's a reminder that safety standards are constantly evolving.
Right.
And what was considered acceptable back then
Yeah.
is unthinkable now.
Okay, so if the Pinto wasn't the villain it was made out to be,
Yeah.
who is the real villain of this story?
Right.
Is it just a case of everyone being kind of bad at their jobs back then?
I think it's more than just incompetence.
Okay.
The Pinto case, I think it reveals some systemic problems that go far beyond just one car or one company.
Okay, so let's dive into that.
Yeah.
You mentioned the pressure on the NHTSA to appease the auto industry.
Yeah.
What did that look like in practice?
Well, it seems like they were caught between a rock and a hard place.
Okay.
On one hand, they were receiving this mounting public pressure to do something about the Pinto.
Right after the Mother Jones expose.
Exactly. But on the other hand, they were also being pressured by the auto industry
Right.
to avoid these overly burdensome regulations.
So they were stuck in the middle of this, like, PR nightmare.
Yeah.
And felt forced to take action, even if their own investigations weren't conclusive.
It seems that way.
Mm.
Remember how they had to modify their crash tests to get the Pinto to ignite?
Oh, yeah.
That suggests they might have been looking for a way to justify a recall that they felt pressured into demanding.
That's troubling.
Yeah.
It sounds like they were bending the rules to achieve a desired outcome.
It does raise concerns about the integrity of the regulatory process.
Yeah.
It highlights the influence that these powerful industries can have on government agencies, even when those agencies are tasked with protecting the public.
Right.
And it also demonstrates how public perception and media narratives can really drive regulatory action,
Yeah.
even when the underlying data might not fully support it.
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
The Pinto case was always presented as this clear-cut example of a corporation knowingly putting profits over people.
Right.
Now, it seems like this much murkier story
Yeah.
of political pressure, media sensationalism,
Right.
and a regulatory system struggling to find its footing.
And let's not forget the broader context of the time.
Right.
A society grappling with the growing power of corporations, the limitations of government regulation,
Right.
and this emerging field of cost-benefit analysis where even human life was being assigned a dollar value.
The Pinto might have been unfairly singled out.
Yeah.
But the story reminds us that corporate greed and lax regulation are rarely isolated incidents.
Indeed, and this raises a critical question.
What's that?
What compromises are we accepting today in the name of convenience or profit?
Right.
And whose responsibility is it to demand better?
It makes you wonder what Pintos are lurking out there right now. Products we use every day that might have these hidden dangers that we're not even aware of.
Right.
What compromises are we accepting in the name of convenience or affordability or just keeping up with the latest trends?
Yeah, that's the real takeaway here. The Pinto might not have been the death trap it was made out to be.
Right.
But the story, it really forced us to confront these uncomfortable truths about the systems we live in.
Yeah.
You know, it exposed the ways that corporations can prioritize profit over safety, the influence they have over regulators,
Right.
and the challenges of holding them accountable.
And we saw how public perception, fueled by these media narratives, can shape those systems.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
For sure.
I mean, it makes you wonder how much of what we believe to be true is actually shaped by the stories we're told, especially back then when there was no internet or social media to fact-check things.
Exactly. We often crave these simple narratives,
Right.
clear heroes and villains.
Yeah,
But the real world is messy.
it is.
And solutions, they rarely come in these neat little packages.
So knowing all of this, what can we do?
Well,
How do we navigate this complex landscape and make sure we're not all driving around in metaphorical Pintos?
right.
What can you tell us to be more aware?
Well, I think it starts with critical thinking.
Okay.
We need to be wary of these simplistic narratives
Uh-huh.
and really dig deeper into the complexities of these issues.
Yeah.
Who benefits from a particular story being told a certain way?
Right.
What are the incentives at play, both for corporations and regulators?
Mm-hmm.
And how do those incentives sometimes conflict with the public good?
And what about us?
Yeah,
As consumers,
Right.
what's our responsibility in all of this?
that's key, too. We need to be informed consumers, doing our own research, not just accepting things at face value.
Right.
Remember how folks were focused on trunk space in the 70s?
Yeah.
What seemingly insignificant features are we prioritizing today at the expense of safety or long-term consequences?
That's such a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Are we sacrificing privacy for convenience in the digital age?
Right.
Are we overlooking environmental impacts for the sake of cheaper products?
Yeah.
Are we turning a blind eye to labor practices
Yeah.
because we just have to have that new gadget?
Right.
These are questions we all need to be asking.
Yeah.
It's like we've traded in bell-bottoms and platform shoes for smartphones and fast fashion. But are we making the same kinds of compromises without even realizing it?
Absolutely. And it's not about being paranoid or rejecting progress. It's about being aware, being engaged, being willing to ask tough questions.
Yeah.
The Pinto story, it reminds us that progress isn't always a straight line.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a few detours, a few hard lessons to get us where we need to be.
The Pinto might be a relic of the past, But the lessons it offers are timeless.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that progress isn't linear,
Right.
and vigilance is key.
Yeah.
We can't afford to be complacent when it comes to safety,
Yeah.
accountability, and holding those in power to a higher standard.
Absolutely.
Just like those folks who spoke up about the Pinto, we all have a role to play in shaping a safer, more responsible future.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe by revisiting stories like the Pinto,
Yeah.
by questioning assumptions and challenging narratives, we can avoid repeating the mistakes of the past
Right.
and create a safer, more just future. We can learn from history
Yeah.
and make more informed choices in the present.
So to all of you listening, we leave you with this.
Yeah.
What compromises are we making today that might seem unthinkable in a few decades?
Right.
And what will it take to change course?
Yeah, good questions.
Think about it, talk about it,
Absolutely.
and let's keep pushing for a world where safety and well-being aren't just line items on a cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah, I love that.
And remember, back in the day,
Yeah.
you couldn't just subscribe to a podcast and get this kind of deep dive delivered right to your ears.
I know, right?
So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes where we unpack even more fascinating stories.
It's been great exploring this with you. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep learning.
And keep those metaphorical pintos off the road.